It's Jordan. This video is being recorded on Labor Day, Monday, September 4th, 2023. Thank you so much for tuning in. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the outlook for gold and silver and the gold and silver stocks this week. So getting into it, the last couple weeks, gold and silver have been trending or trading according to plan. And according to plan, or you could say my analysis. Not taking a victory lap, just pointing out that this is something we talked about, that gold and silver came down to support these support levels and were likely to bounce. But then the question is, was and is now, is this bounce going to fade, or will gold and silver have a chance to actually clear resistance and trade much higher? So let's get into it. So looking at gold, it had the kind of mini double bottom here, the rebound off the 200-day. Rallied up to 1880, which not only on the daily chart, but if you're looking at the weekly chart as well, I mean, this is a really significant resistance level. The last 2 or 3 days at the end of last week, there was a lot of selling in precious metals. So some ugly candles on the daily charts. You'll see those in the minors coming up in the next slide. But so on the first test, gold and silver were turned back, heavy selling here, immediately at 1980. Same thing for silver at around 25 and a half. You did have the rollover of the silver contract. So, the spot, just as the spot chart is showing with respect to these, these continuous contracts, which is going by the next month. But you'll see on the spot silver chart, if you look at that, this here is weaker. So silver's kind of come down like this. The chart looks weaker, same thing on the spot gold chart. But in any case, silver got turned back here around the resistance at 25. So we're looking at, 24 and a half, resistance at 25 and a half. We know the importance of 26. I did a video last week talking about it. I mean, if silver, number one, if silver could rally back to 26, I mean, that would be really encouraging. If silver made a strong weekly close above 26, that would be hugely encouraging. If silver could rally back to 26, without the dollar really falling significantly, that could possibly put silver against foreign currencies at a new 11 or 12-year high. So those are some potential positives. But, we're in a situation here where there's stiff resistance here for silver. But, we don't necessarily want to get too bearish, because maybe silver pulls back here, and then it makes another attempt at 25, maybe even 26. So we'll see. But, heading into this week, it ran into resistance here. So my guess would be we see a little selling this week. Silver probably comes back a little bit. But, nevertheless, it did do a really good job of holding, this support twice. 400-day moving average, 80-week, 20-month, very significant over the last 20, 25 years. And laterally, 22 has been important support. So you have good support here in the 22s, but also good resistance at 25, 26. So, I don't know which way it's going to go, but I think over the coming days, looking at this chart, my bias would be to the downside. Same thing with gold. I'd be really surprised if gold pushed above 1980 this week. I would be pleasantly surprised if it happened, but I'm not expecting that. So bias for coming in to the week is, path of least resistance is probably lower than higher. But at the same time, mind the fact that I very well could be wrong and the metals could, push above these resistance levels. I just don't think it's likely at this point. Now, getting into the stocks, boy, this is an ugly end of the week. I mean, look at these candles right here. Those are some ugly candles. Now, this is the 200-day for GDX. This happened at the 50-day, whereas right here, so Wednesday and Friday, you had two failures at the 50-day. The 50-day for GDXJ, again, I can only show one moving average here. The 50-day, I think, comes in right around 36.25 or 50. So, if you're looking at a daily closing line chart, that shows a failure at the 50-day. You also have the 200-day. So it failed at the 200-day, and essentially the 50-day. Again, ugly candles to end the week. I mean, silver juniors, they look not even close to the 200-day here. I think they went above the 50-day, but just unfortunately, these are some ugly candles to end the week. So That's not real encouraging for the metals, because if you kind of saw, a more muted reaction in the miners, that would lead you to think, oh, well, maybe, the metals will, they're not going to sell off hard this coming week. But, the fact that we had this kind of selling, that would leave me really surprised if we saw the metals move higher this week. So that's the outlook for this week. In the last couple weeks, came down to support, rebounded. Now the metals are dealing with significant resistance. So my guess would be the path of least resistance for this week is likely to be lower. I'll talk about macro fundamentals in another video. That's all for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. Talk to you guys again in the next video.